Welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. It can really say anything. It could be flirtatious. It could be weird. Like, for example, here's an example of a review you could leave. This is from Benneth556. Love her. Funny and great guests. See, was that so hard? Thank you so much for the, wow, that's coming in all the way from Great Britain. I couldn't even detect an accent in that review. Thank you guys so much for all the reviews that you have left and such, and tell a friend. And I'm here to tell you about Silk City Hot Sauce. Go to silkcityhotsauce.com, use the promo code CMP. You're going to get 15% off your whole order. And these guys, since they love me so much and they love you so much, they're going to throw in a free bottle, of hot cherry sriracha and a bunch of stickers. I personally really love the taco flavored one, and I like the smoking one. And the dragon one is really good on like chicken on the grill or whatever. Joe, are you a fan of the hot sauce?
I'm a hot sauce guy. I was too big a fan of hot sauce, and I developed an acid reflux issue. So now I got to take medicine, but I still dabble back into hot sauce. I love it. I put it on, my wife, and I just love it. It's the best. So get some.
I wonder if they make a sauce that's not very hot that they could call not sauce. Maybe that's something I'll take up with them.
I love it. I felt like I didn't give enough, but I thought there was going to be more. That's why I paused. But
no, you were great.
I did enjoy the not sauce.
You handled it exactly the way it deserved.
Stink.
Speaking of hotness, Adam and Eve says that the best part of staying at home is playing at home. And if you go to adamandeve.com right now and use the special code CMP at checkout, you get almost any item online for 50% off. And when you use the discount code CMP, you'll also get bonus gifts, 6 spicy movies, a 3-piece bonus set. What is in that? I got to find out. Plus free delivery. Adam and Eve has thousands of gifts, toys, and movies to help us lock down some great sex, because we're still in a lockdown here. I might dabble in a new butt plug. I don't know. I have a butt plug that I got for free somewhere. I just have never used it. There's something about a free toy that I don't know. I feel like you get what you pay for. So I'm gonna log on to adamandeve.com and get something. Just make sure you use the code CMP and you'll get all these amazing perks. Speaking of amazing, our guest today is incredible. I've known this guy for years, loved him and his comedy for years. He is one of the hosts of the Tuesdays with Stories podcast with Mark Normand. His special, I Hate Myself, is available now on YouTube. It just dropped a month ago. They're almost at 1 million views. That should tell you how fucking great this guy is, how funny he is. Joe List, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I like that you said, speaking of amazing, that was nice, but I was hoping you would say, speaking of butt plugs. Because I love a butt plug. Although I have to say I've never used a butt plug, but it sounds like fun, and it seems fun and cool.
Yeah, I just feel like, well, what if my butt has something to say and I plug it up? Is it going to feel silenced,
Yeah, and you can't silence people these days. That's not okay. And I feel triggered just talking about it. So let your butthole fly.
Let your butt fly. Joe, do you feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like on the political scale, perhaps you skew more liberal, more left. Do you feel, A, am I correct in that assumption? B, do you feel like you have to suppress or restrain yourself when, maybe you've done Zoom shows here and there during the lockdown, podcasts, things are heating up politically, I think, more and more. Do you ever feel like you have to stifle that part of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm scared to death. I'm terrified all the time. I'm already worried that I said butt plug and I'm going to get canceled for butt plugging. But
no way, not on this show.
Yeah, no, I definitely skew left. I mean, it's tricky. It's like a complicated question now.
Yeah.
I always say I'm like a 90s Democrat. I like, I'm for gays and the environment and, anti-death penalty and pro-weed and all those things, but there's a whole new left happening now that I'm, you're aware of, that I find, appalling and close to fascism. So I don't know. I had a friend that said I was a liberal in the 60s and a conservative in the 90s, and I never changed my opinions. And I feel
Oh,
that way now.
wow.
I feel like I was a liberal and now I'm like a moderate without changing a bit. Like people think I'm like this moderate guy.
Yeah.
'Cause
Without doing anything at all. It's just the years have gone by and you're now, yeah, I think that's true of most of us, is that like we've shifted from, yeah, I agree too. I feel like I was kind of like a 90s Democrat. I think I'm still a registered Democrat, and I feel like I've naturally shifted to the middle, just because everything around us has shifted so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both sides feel completely psychotic now, or at least the extremes.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's the leaders of the parties are getting extreme, which is crazy. I think that at this point the right more than the left, but yeah, I don't know. It's cookie time. So
It's cookie time.
I no cookie,
Oh,
but
cookie.
that'd be great if I just right in the middle of that just ate a cookie.
I didn't know if Joe, that was the thing you did when things like feel uncomfortable. Like maybe it's like, in our house, when we talk about politics, things get weird. We go, it's cookie time. And
Yeah,
everybody eats a cookie.
I just revealed that I'm autistic 3 minutes in. I have to eat a cookie when I get upset. But no, I mean, I definitely lean left, but I don't identify with a lot of what's happening in that direction nowadays.
Meaning like, yeah, it's almost like if you're not fully on board for protest and riots, like, well, then what are you? Are you with us? You got to pick a team.
Yeah, exactly. And the white man of the devil, and we're all horrible people, and cancel culture and all that shit. And this is there's a lot of those things that I'm like, what? um,
You're like, yeah, I'm just for the gay trees. That's, come on. Like, why are we at each other's throats?
yeah, I like everybody. Let's hang out, have some fun, and eat some cookies. That's what I say.
It's cookie time. Have you done, like we were talking a little bit before we started recording, that yeah, you and I both I feel like I should have invested in Zoom stock, that's who's doing really good in this lockdown, is like the Zoom people and the grocery store people. There's just like so much. There's no way we could have known that this would have blown up. Are you doing a lot of Zoom comedy shows or more pods?
I'm doing so much Zoom. I mean, I do 2 podcasts via Zoom, and then all the podcasts we're guests on, and the radio shows you're a guest on is on Zoom. And then I have like meetings on Zoom. And now I've done some shows. I did a show last night. I'm still not sure about the Zoom stand-up comedy shows. Some of them you're like, I think that was good. And then sometimes I think comics and some people just unmute and laugh because they want to support you. Because there's sometimes on Zoom you're like, boy, I got a coffee the other day, and everyone's like, bah! I'm like, everyone just relax, stop trying to be overly supportive. It's very strange. But what I like about Zoom is that as soon as the show ends, like a Zoom stand-up show, is you just close the computer and you're done. Like there's no commute home or anything. There's no walk of shame past the audience if you eat it. You just kind of close it and move on.
Yeah, you're less tempted like to get the late night slice of pizza. You're like, do I have to, walk? Am I going to bump into somebody on the way home?
Well, there's just nothing worse than when you eat it and then you have to walk like through the audience or you bump into the audience at the pizza place after.
Oh God. And they want to recap your whole set. And you're like, I'm just trying to have Joe time right now.
Yeah, it's pizza time.
It's pizza time.
Which comes before cookie time.
Yeah. Do you ever, I kind of even miss like the thing which I never missed and always hated, which was like you bump into another comic on the train or even another like friend or person that and then you feel like obligated to like chat with them. Maybe I'm the only one who feels this way, but I feel like the entirety of the subway ride has to be like catching up with this person and chatting, and it's like almost like, well, now this is permanent and your time is not your own anymore.
No, it's horrendous. I hate that feeling. And the proudest moment of my life came not long before quarantine or whatever the fuck. I was on the subway and I was reading, and this is like a humble brag, I guess, but a guy came up and he was like, hey man, I'm a huge fan. And he was like, we did a show once at so-and-so's, and he started talking comedy, and we were both standing there. I had a book open still, and I talked to him for about 3 minutes, and then I got up the gall to be like, all right, well, take care. I'm going to go back to reading my book. And he was like, oh, okay. And then I couldn't even read because I was so self-conscious, but like we just stood next, we're holding the same pole. And I
Oh
just stood
no.
like a foot from him, just pretending to read. And the whole time I was just staring at the book being like, I'm so glad I'm not talking to this guy, but I feel so awkward. And then I would just flip a page when I felt like enough time had passed to be like, I should have read this
Oh my
page by now.
God. Wow. It's
But
like you could have been reading, but it was literally a placeholder. Yeah.
I was too in my head, but I felt good that I'm like, at least I'm not stuck in this conversation because there's levels of friends, and I almost wish you could just label it beforehand. Like you have like a spreadsheet and like it lights up somehow. If you see a friend that you're like, we're talk the rest of the train ride friends, and other people are like,
Yeah.
we're way from a distance friends.
Yeah, like a green light should come above your head. That way that person knows where they stand. Or maybe like both of your lights would go off. That way you know. I don't know. That's the thing. Like what if someone sees you as a green level friend, talk the whole way, but you're like, this is red level. We're not, then are you somewhere in the middle? Then you have to cap the conversation at one stop.
Yeah,
It's tricky.
that would be really awkward to go green and they're red and you're like, fuck. And you just that guy hates me. But yeah, that was a horrible thing. And like Sarah and I, my wife and I always talk about like I've done crazy like spy versus spy shit to go different directions to avoid bumping into people. We did it like 2 days ago. We saw like a guy walking to the subway like 100 yards ahead of us, and we circumvented and went back to a different stop to avoid him.
Whoa. Was it a comic?
Yes. I don't want to say who.
That's okay. I love it. So, right. I forgot to mention this before. You're married to another stand-up comic, Sarah. I love her. I've known her for years. Do you guys, have you been, feeling the same way? Like, how has it been, first of all, like locked down with each other? And now that you've started, is she also doing these Zoom shows? Is she sharing your feelings, as you on, the comedy coming back up stuff?
It's been pretty good. I mean, we got along well and it's gone well, but she doesn't like the Zooms. She's been doing a ton of live shows. Like she's been going and doing the Brooklyn show. There's a big tiny cupboard in Brooklyn, has all these shows, and she's been doing those and all these outdoor shows. I have been sitting at home watching hockey and basketball playoffs, and it's been fantastic. And doing I've done a few outdoor shows, but I don't know. I think she does less Zoom shows and more just outdoor, real live shows. And so far, we don't hate each other. I think we've been okay.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, if you can get through the last 6 months with whoever you're with, like you chose wisely. Like there've been a lot of breakups, a lot of divorces.
I think that all the time. Like all the people that had just started dating before this, and then they're like, 3 weeks into a relationship, and now they just have lived with someone for 7 months is a fucking nightmare.
It's almost like the next step down from like meeting somebody and you immediately get pregnant. It's like that, like a lot of responsibility right away and you get a lot of closeness right away. Whereas like, yeah, being locked down with somebody, it's like, and I'm going to figure out real quick how you keep your bathroom. And that's going to be a deciding factor.
Well, especially comedians, because everyone lives in or most people live in like a shit apartment, like a studio or a 1 bedroom. Definitely could have been a nightmare, but ours has been okay.
Do you ever have you ever had moments with Sarah? Like, and you've been with her like what, at least like 5 years now, probably longer, right?
No, almost 10.
Almost
9.
10.
Yeah, we're in our 10th year together.
Have there ever been moments where the two of you have felt like at all sort of competitive, like, moments creep in of maybe jealousy, or is this a thing, you guys maybe don't talk about as much?
We don't address it, and I don't appreciate you bringing it up. No, I don't know. Probably a little bit at times, I think. Yeah, I think so at times. It's tricky, but I think it's fleeting and quick, and then it's like it's hard to be jealous or upset for too long when you're like, I love you, get over here, you. And I think we both respect each other's comedy, so it's not like, a lot of times you get jealous of people that actually comedy you don't like. They're like getting stuff and you're like, that fucking piece of shit. And I think she likes and respects me, and I like and respect her, so it's not too bad. But I think there's definitely moments naturally of that, but then we use a butt plug and it works out.
It's so true. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is like, it's a two comedians, and also the way that most comedians live. It's like, I remember Joe, When I was dating my ex, Pat, he lived with you. It was like 4 comics and a guy that worked at LaGuardia, right? Was
Yeah,
that was that
Jay, yeah. He still lives
Jay?
over there, yeah.
And this is like kind of one of my favorite things is that this apartment it's in Astoria, Queens, and this had been a comedian's apartment for what, like 20 years or something like that, like a really long time.
Yeah, and
Just
it's still going. There's still JP McDade lives over there, and Chris Scopo, and a guy named James Pontillo, I think.
Oh yeah, I know. Wow, I know Pontillo. That's so funny because at the time it was like you, Paul Otto, I think,
Yeah.
like Pat Dixon, Jay from the airport, and Jason Cantor, I think.
Yes.
Oh my God. And then I remember like Emily Tarver was like in and out of there for a time because she was sort of seeing Paul. And then like I would see Sarah. It was like really like a grand central of like comedians coming and going. And it was the hardest part was just like the bathroom because it was like this many people sharing an apartment plus girlfriends. And then it was like, oh, like there's just no way anyone's going to get to go to the bathroom when they have to. I think like maybe Emily one time peed in the kitchen sink.
Yes,
I don't
that's
know.
right.
She never told anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a secret or not, but yeah, and yeah, I mean that was in our drinking days, and Emily's a good person, and we all did crazy things. But I remember it because I think that was when I was eating my lunch or my dinner, like a late dinner, and I think Jason Canner, who I love and is one of my close friends, he would take like 45-minute showers. I don't know if he shaved his
He
balls.
took such long showers. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be insane. And so she just came out and peed in the sink and then just sat down and we shared some Kraft macaroni and cheese. But yeah, I pissed in I mean, like this is gross, but like probably 25 Gatorade bottles because it would happen all the time because like someone and Jay would take really long showers and Jason would take long showers and people would just put on music and hang. And that bathroom, if you remember, was huge. Like it was
it was nice.
It was like a big,
nice tiling. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big, spacious bathroom and a great shower. So I think people take like a 20-minute shit and then a half-hour shower. So I would piss in a bottle all the time. I was also drinking at the time. So like I'd have 48 beers and then someone would just be in the bathroom. And yeah, I peed in a lot of Gatorade bottles. It was not good.
Yeah, it was like you, Pat, Jason. So what? 4 comics, 1 airport employee. So 5 people and 5 dudes in this apartment, 1 bathroom, and then like 2 or 3 girls at any given point in time. And that he would take really long showers. And that's the thing. Once you got into the bathroom, you were like, okay, now is my time. I'm gonna do. Probably there's this feeling of like I gotta do all the things I'm gonna do because I might not get another crack at this bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. I would try to stay in there for 2 urine cycles. Like I'd piss, shower, and be like, I don't have to pee yet, so let me just eat up some more time. But it was not. I mean, it was great. There's things that I loved about it, but I'm incredibly grateful not to. Even when you're living with your closest friends, there's times when I would tiptoe past the bedroom because you just don't feel like hanging out. You know, you're in the middle of a movie or whatever it is. So yeah, I don't miss it.
I remember it was a time where I was like trying to be a really good girlfriend and I was like, I'm going to clean Pat's room. You know, like he was just like out doing spots or something. And I was just like hanging out and I like went into his closet and that's why I laughed so hard when you said like peeing into Gatorade bottles. Cause I found like no joke, like 18 to 20 Gatorade bottles full of pee. And I was like, oh no. And it actually like makes me feel so much better that you were also doing that. Cause I'm just like, oh, this is at the time I was like, oh, this is terrible. But now that then I was also like, oh, this is so disgusting. Like, why are they still here? You know, like you'd think you'd empty them out. Like, did you keep yours or did you empty yours out?
No, actually, I'm pretty appalled by that. I would have it in a Gatorade bottle. And then as soon as the bathroom opened, you flush it down the toilet. You don't hang on to it. I mean, that sounds like he's running an experiment or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, maybe there's a sentimentality issue here. I don't know. But I was like, ugh.
Or maybe he was being drug tested and he was holding on to someone else's urine, like a baseball player or something.
I should have just like about face, but I was like, let me be a good girlfriend. So I emptied them all out.
Well, that's nice. I mean,
it was so gross. Like if you think regular pee smells bad, old pee smells the worst.
Yeah, it gets bad quick too. Like it doesn't take long for urine to get worse, I would imagine.
It was not good. But like, right, probably some of the benefits of living in like an all comedian apartment is like, would you guys like write together, run jokes by each other? No?
No, I mean a little bit occasionally, I guess, but I think we were all. I guess a little bit, but I think we were all so fucked up at the time. Like, I mean, at least Jason and I were just boozing hard together, and Paul a little bit too, and so yeah, I mean, there was a lot of debauchery happening there, I guess, and I don't know. I wasn't writing that much at that time in my life, anyways, but I mean, we had some fun. There was some good times, and then they had that show, Restaurant, the French
Yes.
restaurant. That
It
was
was
like
two
around the
blocks.
street.
Yeah, it was like a block or two away because I lived like a block or two from you guys. And yeah, that was like the easiest show to get to. It was this tiny little, it was a restaurant. It was called Restaurant. And then, you know, there'd be maybe 10, 15 people that could fit in there. It was like such a tight, close show. But it was also really great because you could like look everybody in the eye. You could have a conversation with like each person. Um, at what most restaurants would consider like their 25% capacity was this whole place, like what they could fill. So it was nice to have like a neighborhood show, and you know the locals would become regulars there. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun. That place is gone now, and Sarah got banned from
What?
there. Yeah, because Sarah bartended there, and like she ran the show for a while, and
Oh,
then
right.
for some reason she got fired. They like let her go, and then she filed for unemployment, and somehow that goes through the restaurant, and they were like, no, she got fired for like negligence or
Oh,
something, and then Sarah fought it and won. Like that, she went to court and
wow.
won, and then she had to pay her, and so she wasn't allowed back in there. So there'd be like comedy shows and we would walk by and just like curse them, and now that lady's closed, so we we won doubly. She had to pay Sarah, and then she lost the bar, and she, by the way, the bar closed
Wow.
before COVID. So
Oh my God. So
so
she's probably going around being like, yeah, COVID, it happens. You know, we're all shutting down.
yeah, exactly. But
Wow, but good for Sarah because like usually like you know you're starting to tell that story of like they had to go to court. That story 99% of the time ends in, you know what I mean, like the good guy doesn't win, and you know most. I figured you were gonna say like yeah, but she didn't get her unemployment. So it's really cool that this thing that she was owed, she was able to get in the end. That really
yeah,
sucks though that they manipulated it to be like, oh no, she was fired. She stole a bunch of forks or whatever.
yeah, it was the whole thing. She kicked ass. Is there a kitchen right next to your microphone?
Yes, I know. It's like I should turn down my gain. It sounds like this podcast is happening in a kitchen, but no, my boyfriend is making dinner. Frank, he's a good cook. Look, there he is.
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's
that's a
okay.
nice.
No,
That's a
it's
nice looking place.
he's not even like being loud. Oh, there's look. Spoiler alert. Here's how I create the effect of the. And this is how tall Frank's son is getting, and
Oh, wow.
that's you know this is like magnetized and like you could do chalk and magnets on here.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
it was, you know, with the intent of I would be having a ton of ideas happening on here all the time, but as you can see.
Oh,
But yeah, like I'll have thoughts and then I'll just be like, oh, that looks weird, so I'll erase it. And I make sure it doesn't say a bunch of crazy shit. And then like Frank's kid comes over and it's like, die, or like
right,
whatever,
right.
whatever I'm going through.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I remember having I lived with comedians previously in Boston, and we were going to write a TV show, and I was like, what we need is a dry erase board. Did you ever do that in comedy?
Yeah,
And I was like,
I have
that's
one. I
I was
have
like,
a big one over here. Yeah.
that's what you need. And I was like, before we start writing, let's go get a dry erase board, and then we would go to like Walmart, buy a dry erase board. And like now we got to have a couple drinks, and then the thing never got opened ever. We never wrote a thing.
Yeah, why is that? It's like sometimes the thought of writing can really psych you out. Like I can't tell you how many notebooks I've bought and either have never used, or it's like you've written 2 pages in it and then it gets away from you and then you're like, ugh, I don't want to go back to that notebook, and then you read the shit you wrote like years ago and you're like, you don't, it's like I don't like the energy of that notebook. I don't like the place where I began writing into it. So then it's like I have to disregard and start with a new notebook. Or maybe I'm the only weirdo who like feels this way about the notebooks, like they're tainted and I have to like always have a fresh one. But then it's like I'm afraid to actually like write down, you know, rough thoughts. And it's like it's kind of easier in your phone because it's like, but it's also not, you don't feel like you've written anything either because it's in your phone.
No, I completely feel the same way. I do that because I'm like, this next notebook, the notebook feels like it's going to be like an hour of material. Like, this is going to be huge. This is the notebook. And I have the same thing where I'm like, I've filled it halfway, but I haven't written it in 3 weeks. So I'm like, let me get a new one because that one feels a little, I have the exact same feeling.
Yeah, why is that? And I have so many, and it's like there's nothing more exciting than going out and buying a new notebook. Like I would go to just like, yeah, like Barnes and Noble or like even like a TJ Maxx. Like maybe this is more of like a girl thing too. It's like I gotta like the look of it. It's gotta have like an inspiring looking cover. Cause it's like, well, anything could happen in this one. This could be, yeah, exactly like your next hour. And then you're like, oh God, this one's devolving into just like journal entries. And then I go like, what if somebody finds this and reads this? Like, yikes.
Yeah, it's like doubly bad because someone finds it and they're reading your, like, basically your diary. And then they're also like, these aren't jokes. Like,
Yeah.
they're hearing your interpersonal thoughts as well as being like, these jokes suck. Anytime anyone's ever opened one of my notebooks, I'll fucking dive across the room and kick them in the forehead and be like, please don't read. Because it's so
Yeah.
embarrassing. Just do like, what is the deal with my mom or whatever? And you're like, or whatever it is.
And you're like, Mom, put that down. Yeah. Like, I'm just helping you clean. How long have you been doing Tuesdays with Stories for?
Um, this is September, so it's like 7 years this month. We started in September of
Whoa.
2013. Yeah, it's weird because I remember thinking when we did it, there was tons of podcasts. I'm like, there's so many podcasts, but we should just start one. And now it feels like, back then it felt like there was like 100, and now it feels like there's just whatever infinite amount.
Thousands and thousands of podcasts. Yeah.
But yeah, so about 7 years now. I don't know the exact date that the first one came out, but 7 years ago this month.
And you always did them on a Tuesday?
Yeah, we've been doing it Tuesday. We started recording in like June of that year, and then they started coming out in September, and it's changed quite a bit the way we did it. But yeah, and still every week we skip 1 week, like Christmas week, we take a week off. But other than that, we've just been cramming them out. It's been nice. It's fun.
What was the inspiration, just like we got to talk about our stories on the road, or like was there, how did you guys start?
Yeah, so it started. It was like it's like kind of a gay story, but I was like reading this like I was reading this
We were
book.
having sex.
Yeah, we were fucking each other in the ass. And no, I was reading this book called Let Me Tell You a Story by Red Auerbach, the basketball coach. And it was like the premise of the book was this guy, this old retired basketball coach, would get like a bunch of basketball people together and have lunch every week, like once, whatever day it was. And there'd be like 10 to 15, 20 guys, rotating guys, and they would just sit and tell old basketball stories. And I thought, like, comics should do this. Like, we should do this. And the idea was to have actual comics do it at a diner on Tuesdays because
Oh.
comics are traveling Mondays. Sometimes there's Sunday shows. And I'm like, we get a bunch of people and it's a rotating group. We all get together at a diner and everyone just talks about their weekends every Tuesday. But then it was like, it was so ridiculous to try to organize that. Like organizing anything with comedians is brutal. They don't get back to you. Their schedules are
Oh,
crazy. So I was just
yeah.
like, that's not going to work. But then I kept the idea and was like, it might work as a podcast. So a thought was I would get a co-host, and Mark was the only person I ever considered because he was so funny and he's like a story guy. And then we would have like 2 or 3 people on. So it was like a diner. And we did that for a while. And then after a while, people were like, we hate the guests. It should just be you guys. And so
That's
we made
great.
it just that, which is nice because it was easier than trying to book someone and list. And like every once in a while, and I hope I'm not this guy right now, but every once in a while you get someone and they just stink. Like they're just like, I don't know.
No,
Whatever.
you're not that guy.
Oh, great.
Definitely
But
not.
we've had episodes with guests where you're just like, we can't even fucking release this. I'm like, you're like, people
Really?
are,
That bad? Whew.
yeah, a couple. And you're like, people are listening. Like some comics just come on and they're just like, yeah, I don't know. Poof. And I'm like, come
Oh
on, man. Like
no.
we got people here. So it ended up just being the 2 of us, and it seems to work. People like it. I don't know. I'm always afraid we're going to get canceled and have our, houses burned down, but it's fun. We have a good time.
For anything in particular, or just because of like the climate, the cancel culture bullshit that's sort of pervasive?
Yeah, it's that stuff. But I mean, we're pretty irreverent. We go, we just say whatever shit. It's like pretty free form, and we'll just kind of say crazy shit that, like, to me, I mean, part of comedy was saying things that you're not supposed to say, and so it was fun to say whatever, and eventually, someone will destroy us. But Until then, we're having a good time.
Yeah, you're nice boys. You're gonna be fine.
I hope so. I try to be nice.
But what a huge compliment to get from your listeners, to say like, no, we actually love you two the best. I mean, that's amazing. They're like, that really just speaks to your guys' talent and how good you are.
Oh, thanks.
That they just wanted more of you two. How has the podcast changed, from 7 years ago to now?
Yeah. So, I mean, we got rid of the guests and I mean, it's changed. Like the actual podcast itself is pretty similar, except that like we're successful now. Like when it started, we were both, featuring and like Mark was opening for me in some of those early days, and I had just gotten sober. Mark was single, or maybe Mark was actually with his old girlfriend. So Mark went from like
the one that he was with for like 10 years.
Yeah, Megan. Yeah. So he was with the girl, living with a girl, and then he was single for a long time, and now he's back with the girl for years, a different girl. And then like I got married on there, and we did our first late nights while we were on there. And then like he started touring with Amy Schumer, and I started touring with Louie. So, and we started doing our own headlining, and so that's the biggest difference. Is it kind of was like we were really new comics featuring on the road, and now we're sort of, I mean, now we're not doing shit. Well, Mark's working. Mark just kept working through the pandemic, but yeah, so now we're sort of at least moderately successful in headlining our own shows and doing our own shit. So that's like the biggest change, I think.
What do you think you learned from opening for Louie CK?
Yeah, it's hard because I had already been doing comedy for 16 years when I started working with him.
Wow.
One thing I learned was that I would love to be rich. Like it's, like you in your mind, you're always like, if I could just make the money my parents made doing comedy, if I could just make a teacher's salary, and then you like, whatever you like, I want to do well. Like I'd like to be at this level or that level or make six figures. And then I got to do that tour, and this was obviously before his whole thing. And you're flying private and staying at the Ritz-Carlton and the Four Seasons.
Oh my God.
And you're like, no, you want to be rich. Like this fucking, like he's making $250,000 a night at Madison Square Garden or whatever.
I had no idea. Like I knew he's successful, but like you look at him and you don't think Ritz-Carlton. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at him and you're like, all right, that's like I don't know, like he's like a Ramada body. I don't know. I don't know. I'm judging how he looks based on what hotel he should stay at. But you know what I mean? Like he doesn't come off like a rich guy.
Yeah, I mean he's staying at Ramada's now, but no, but probably Holiday Inns or whatever.
Yeah, Best Western.
But no, I mean he is still that guy, because I mean he's like a poor, like very blue collar kid that just got successful in comedy. I mean, that's what's always funny about people that get success in comedy. It's not like they went to Wall Street and got hedge funds or something. Like he's still like a piece of shit guy. Not a piece of shit, but you know what I mean? Like where,
he's still him. He has all the same tastes. It's not like he's getting an upgrade to his wardrobe. It's not like he's, having a salad with every meal, like, living that like rich person life, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, by piece of shit guy, I mean like a blue collar. And now I'm saying blue collar. I'm like me. I'm saying
I'm just a regular guy. Yeah,
exactly.
My dad was blue collar. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever word. I don't know why I'm trying to find a
just a regular dude.
Term.
Just a dude.
But yeah, so he's still that guy. But like we did that tour in 2016 and 2017, like flying private, we went to Europe, like Paris, Vienna, all these places, and stayed at like 4-star hotels. So that I learned that like I would like to be that level of success, but with that level of success comes, all the negative shit and maybe people disparaging you or whatever the fuck. So you got to deal with that also. But yeah, and comedically, I don't know, like comedically, I sort of established the way I was doing things or create material or whatever or perform. So it's hard to say how much there, but definitely building that act like the way he does was impressive, and being part of that was really cool.
Does he, like, did you notice like he would write a lot on stage, or like would his acts differ like night to night over a weekend? Like how did he work that was different from you?
Yeah, so at that time, like he changes the way he works a lot of the times, I think. But like at that time, he was very anti-writing, like in a notebook. He writes down ideas and then works them out on stage. And he has a good point about it. And I've actually experienced, so maybe I learned this, I guess, was that like when you write a lot in a notebook, then that night when you're going to perform the thing, you're trying to remember what you wrote instead of thinking
Yeah.
about what is actually funny. So he does a thing where he's just like, I want to talk about this, and then he'll go on stage. Now, to be fair, it's easier to do that when the entire crowd is there to see you. Whereas like if you're at the stand and you're like, I want to talk about rabbits, let me see if there's anything here. They're going to be like, hey, fucking beat it, dude. You stink. So he does have that advantage at least, but it did make sense. So he's not really a notebook writer, but he listens to sets and he records sets and then listens to them, which is something I do as well. But so it was definitely, and he would change up his order a lot and close with this and take out a huge chunk that was working because of whatever philosophical reason he had. It was pretty interesting. But him doing stand-up reminds me of like, if you ever watch Bob Ross do paintings.
Oh yeah, the happy trees. Yeah, he was so like, I don't know, like his like soulful about it.
Yeah, I loved it. But I always thought his painting looked done. I'm like, that is great. And then he'd just like draw a fucking tree in the middle of it. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
And then he would end up making it work. But that's what I felt with Louie, where like all of a sudden he would just take like an 8-minute chunk out. He's like, I'm getting rid of that. And I'm like, are you crazy? And it ended up working better without it. So he's really good at editing his shit.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like really masterful to like take out a big chunk that's like working, you know, objectively. And then just put a tree in the middle. That's pretty cool. So this was happening like 2016, 2017 was the Ritz-Carlton era.
Yeah, exactly. And then the allegations, the cancellation, whatever you call, happened in November of 2017. So it was like the tour ended in April. It went from like May of 2016 to April of 2017. It was pretty sweet.
Was it or not sweet? Was there like, I mean, did this come as a huge like shock to you, or was there part of you that was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, what was your feeling? Like, what was your reaction to all of it, having worked with him so closely?
Wait, when everything went down, when he
that
was like, it was surprising to me because obviously like we all knew about the story and there was like the rumor about Aspen and all that. So I knew there was something there or some kind of story, but I didn't expect, like at that time, nobody, I had never heard, nobody was really, that was new, the idea of somebody having all this success and all these things and then them being gone in a matter of a day or two. So I wasn't expecting it, and it happened on the day his movie was supposed to premiere at the Paris Theater. And like I had just, Sarah and I were going, I went and picked my suit up at the the dry cleaning, and I was all pumped and excited, and I got an email because I had like a reservation or whatever, and I got an email being like, unfortunately the event is canceled. And I was like, canceled? And then I emailed his agent and I was like, hey, is this real? And he's like, I'm afraid it is. And that was the day the article had come out, but I just did not expect like the movie to be over. And then I think quickly after that, like it became like the front page news and everything. So it was pretty shocking just because nothing had ever happened or moved that fast. It was pretty like, Jesus. And I think a couple days later he texted me, it was like, I forget how he worded it, but he's like, you're doing better than me in the business right now, or you've passed me or something. Like I had a manager and agent and he didn't, which was weird. So it was pretty wild. I was not thinking that was going to happen. I wish it happened one day later because I really wanted to wear that suit to the premiere.
Yeah, you're like, what about my suit? Yeah.
Guys, did you even consider me?
Yeah. Did you even consider, like, I just need one picture of me looking good in a suit for my profile, you know?
I was pretty excited about it, but
did you just sort of like wear it to bed or like wear it to dinner just in spite of it all? You're like, no, I'm going to wear it anyway.
Yeah, we played the premiere of my movie. It was a YouTube video I did. And, we sat on the couch in our towns. But no, it was crazy. It was shocking.
And like having worked with him, you see like, what a good guy he is. And then, there's people, I remember he was coming back, he was doing more sets, and there was such a huge like blowback to that. People, the cancel people didn't even want him to work ever again, never get up again. Yet like he would be crushing like right off the bat, as soon as he started getting up again. Did you ever feel like frustrated, like, well, why are people giving him such a hard time? He's trying to like redeem himself, get back working again.
Yeah, it's weird. I try not to like, I guess I try to be like the way I want to be treated or whatever. Like, all right, I guess that's their take. And I understand people have been, victims of things. And so it triggers them and they're able to maybe not um, deal with or take down the person that hurt them. And so this is a person that maybe they're able to because it's so public and they don't want, predators working. I think a lot of people have, are maybe, have misconceptions or misguided a little bit. And I also, sometimes I'm frustrated by the idea that it usually comes from the left and that's not, doesn't feel very liberal or progressive. Because, he did things that maybe he regrets or whatever. I don't know what went on or whatever. And I understand that those women are hurt. I don't think they're making it up, they perceive it that way. They feel that way. And I wouldn't take away from the way they feel. But I also think that he's a human being and a good human being that maybe made mistakes. And there are people like, I know it's brought up a lot, like Mike Tyson raped a woman and openly knocked women out and took their groceries and bit a guy and beat his wife. And he has a cartoon and a show on Broadway. And he's like
Wow. Yeah, it's so
pretty,
hypocritical.
pretty beloved guy. So it's weird that the idea that Louie shouldn't be able to work or people shouldn't be friends with him or he shouldn't be able to eat in restaurants is really sort of the opposite of progress or liberal. And he did, by the way, admit to it and apologize and release a statement. And then he did go away for 9 months. People act like that's nothing. And I think when he came back, he was doing surprise sets, drop-ins, and people were mad about that and said he shouldn't drop in. So he stopped doing that. He started announcing himself and just doing his own shows. So some of it I do feel like I understand if people don't like him or they're whatever they feel about him, but the idea that he shouldn't be allowed to work or whatever is silly. But at the same time, he is working and he is allowed to work. He's doing really well and he's doing shows and selling them out. He's at the Chappelle. He just did Chappelle's thing again. So
Wow.
there's always going to be those people, I guess, and I find them a little misguided, but certainly they're welcome to feel the way they feel. If all of that made sense, I'm terrified.
Yeah. Was he, were you hearing from him much during the 9 months that he was out? Like what was he checking in with you or like, what was he doing during that time?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together. So I kind of became pretty close with him on the tour. Obviously, we traveled. I mean, it's hard not to. We went everywhere. I mean, at the beginning of the tour, he was sort of famous guy and I was like the opener. So we would just see each other at the show. And then slowly we started talking more and more. And by the end, we were just hanging out in all these cities and stuff. And so we got pretty close. And then all that happened. And to me, I was like, well, that's my friend. And whatever he did. But this must be horrible for him. Again, I understand people don't want to hear his side or that he suffered or it was difficult for him. I understand people are like, well, fuck him. He shouldn't have done whatever, but it was horrible and it's difficult to lose that much money and to get that much negative attention. So I was reaching out and he was in pretty bad shape for a while there and was like, yeah, just keep reaching out. So I would go hang out. We spent time together and it was nice. I mean, I would basically just sit there and listen. And we spent quite a bit of time together in that time. And I checked it with him all the time. I mean, he was, it's a fucking devastating feeling to have everybody upset with you.
Yeah, especially because it seems like, I mean, now that it's 2020 and there are lots of other examples of men that people have gone after and tried to take down for similar-ish stuff. It seems to me like Louie, he sounds like he asked all these people, he gave them the heads up what he was doing. It's like it seems like they had opportunity to leave. It doesn't seem like they were locked in a room. It doesn't seem like he forcibly physically did anything to anybody. So I mean, now that it's not like he like raped anybody. I don't know. To me, it's like I just think not like it's always the best thing. Like, well, it could have been worse, but it's like now looking back, you realize like, okay, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like maybe I am someone who's like, it could have been worse. At least, but he was like, hey, this is what I do. This is happening. And, like they could have left.
Yeah, it was hard because I think also so much was happening in that time that you'd see stories where it was like Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and Louis CK, and you're like, well, what Bill Cosby was doing and what Louis CK are doing are not.
Oh God, not even the same league.
Not the same thing. Yeah. So, and timing wise, I think it just worked out that was going on at that time. But yeah, I love Louie, and I think he's a good person. And again, if somebody had robbed somebody and beat them and stole their money and they went to jail. I mean, these incidents happened 14, 15, 16 years ago, before I think he even had kids or anything. So it's hard to continually punish somebody for something that they did a decade and a half ago and have expressed remorse for. And he's been incredibly helpful and kind to a lot of people. So I love him, but again, I understand. I'm like, I can't control how other people feel about him or me or whatever. So
yeah. Wow, very healthy way to look at it, Joe.
I try. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm terrified about talking about it and being friends with him and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that sucks. You really shouldn't be. It's like it should be like, wow, you got to work with this massively talented guy, and you learn things from him that are always going to stay with you and help you. And we're actually friends, and it's like amazing to hear that you were like really there for him, like in a real friend way when he was, in his like down period, like the 9 months where I think a lot of maybe his friends were trying to distance themselves from him. It's like really nice. It's amazing that you were there for him like that. And, checking in on his well-being. Cause it's like, I'm thinking if that was me, it's like, I'd be fucking suicidal. I'd be like, I'm done with comedy. It's like, I would probably have thoughts of quitting. And it's like, I don't know. It's really cool that you were there for him when a lot of people were kind of like, ooh, no,
Yeah, that was happening for sure. I think he was pretty devastated and didn't know what to do or where to go. But yeah, I thought that was weird. Certain people were like, I remember talking to people be like, have you talked to him? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I haven't even reached out. And I'm like, you should. You definitely should. And no, people have said, like, are you still friends with Louie? And I'm like, well, that would be an insane time to stop being friends with somebody. To be like, I have to stop being friends with you because of this thing that you did 10 years before I met you and have expressed regret about. I mean, that would be really, really insane.
Yeah, you're seeing it from a logical human perspective instead of like I can't even name the people, but I just remember at the time going like, oh wow, it seems like his friends are turning their backs on him now, or the other people on another high celebrity comedy level, or they are turning their backs on him at this time because it doesn't look good on them to be associated. And to me, that's so icky to put that, like how you're seen, like career wise ahead of like the human level, the friendship level. And it's like, it's really gross to see like how many people like in a snap will prioritize it that way, and then you look at, what was happening with like Dalia and Callan and whatever the other guy. It's like same-ish kind of thing. Like, people are so quick to be like, oh, fuck that guy. I'm not with that guy, because they think, well, this person's going down. I got to get on top of it.
Well, I will say I am grateful to not have known those guys. I'm like, I'll take the one guy. I'm like, I can't have a bunch.
Joe List is friends with a lot of cancelable characters.
No, I know. And I have Ari, Ari Shafir is a close friend who's, wants Kobe dead. And everyone's like, how are you friends with this guy? And I'm like, I don't know. I like Kobe. I'm sorry.
He never said like he never said he wanted him dead. He just like made such a dark joke, like right away. And that was his thing. He would make right after somebody dies, is most people think don't make a joke about him, but he's like, oh, this will be the time I make a joke about them. And
right.
That was his thing.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of those moments of like, shit. Sorry, everybody. I have horrible friends. I apologize.
I think it's not that like anybody is horrible. It's like, why does society look to its most creative people to also, you know what I mean? It's not enough that we have to entertain you, be really good at what we do, be constantly innovating, growing, learning social media, being our own entrepreneurs, right? Like just dealing with the craft, getting better, being good at that. That's not enough. We also have to be like some sort of moral superiors and always making good decisions. And, oh, you know what I mean? Like I think we're expecting too much as a society from our creative people, you know. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
Yeah, looking to comedians to be moral folks is really kind of funny. It's like, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, obviously, you know, we want to be a decent people, but comedians should not be held to a higher standard than regular people with as far as behavior.
Yeah, it's like, look how we live, you know. It's like, I don't know.
We're pissing in Gatorade bottles, for God's sakes, and keeping them in the closet.
And keeping them forever. Oh, maybe I'll edit that part out. Nope, I don't know how to edit a Zoom, so I won't. There was I did a show. It was like this other show I do. It's called like Never Have I Ever, and it's like there's 9 of us, and we're like sharing stories, right? And it was like this girl's a porn star on it, and she is dating this other really famous porn star, and then she said that during the show, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, who's Chad White? Who's Chad White?" And then boom, she shows like a naked photo of him, like dude at the Zoom, and like it was so funny, but at the same time I was like, no,
Right.
because I don't know how to edit a dick out of a Zoom. I was like, these are definitely 2020 problems here.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know how to edit anything.
I was like, I have to put a moving blur bar.
Yeah, that would work, I think.
Stuff. That's pretty amazing. Like, I'm just thinking like, wow, I've never done comedy. Like, God, not even outside the country. Like, were you worried, like, is my stuff going to translate? Like, did you have to change your act in any way?
Oh, there was definitely a lot of shows where I was doing like, there was 3 of us. It was me and Rachel Feinstein and Joe Mackey in the Europe part of the tour. And we are all doing 7 minutes. And I was grateful that we were doing 7 because some of them was just straight, like nothing. Like they were like, what?
I couldn't handle that. I would be like, oh, like, let me get some Rosetta Stone.
It was weird. There was definitely moments, like some of them were really great. I mean, London and Dublin, obviously, because they're English speaking, were like the best. But there was definitely things that I was like, I think I would have to do pretty broad stuff, like sex stuff would be like, okay, everyone's banging. It was a little tricky. But we were just doing 7 minutes, and he was like, just, I don't care. He's like, just do your thing and have fun or whatever. So it wasn't too much pressure. If I had been doing a half hour in all those places, it might have been a little more stressful. But
like, was Louie just doing like, and then how much time was he doing? Was he doing his full regular set?
It was a long show. He did about like an hour and 15 or something. So there was 21 minutes in front of him, and then he'd do about an hour and a half or something, or hour 15, I think.
And were they understanding him and like laughing at him differently than you guys? Like, was there some like more understanding for him, for his act?
Yeah, it seemed like it because I guess they knew him, and so they were already like, yes. And I think he had a little more room to breathe and do some more time. And I think having 3 openers in Europe is strange. I think most, like I did London last year, and like they're like, we don't do opener. You just come out and just do an hour. So I think for some of them, there was a little bit of like, what is happening here? Like, why are 3 different people coming out?
Who is going to be the best? Who is the one that goes for the longest? Yeah, they'll get confused.
Oh, I would always walk out. If I went up 3rd, I'd always go, yeah, Louie's not here. We fucked up.
He's not coming. Yeah.
That does well in America, but in Europe, they're like, what? He's not coming? But no, it was great. I mean, it was fucking amazing. The whole thing was great.
That's awesome. Tell me more about your special. Where did you film it? You know, what was your process like for picking what was going to go in that?
So I shot it at the Village Underground, the Comedy Sellers sister club or whatever, Village Underground in the Village, obviously. I shot it March 2nd, like right before everything shut down.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. I did not know everything was going to shut down.
Wow.
It was weird. Like COVID at that time was kind of like, we were hearing about it, and there was a case in Seattle or something. It was like, I just kind of was like, all right, whatever, we'll see. And yeah, I did it at the Cellar because I wanted it to look like a club and feel like a club. And then they were willing to give me the room and the door, which was amazing. Wow. And I shot it on my own. I hired a film crew and then just shot it with my own money. And then Yeah, we got it shot and edited, and then we just pitched it around and ended up selling it to Comedy Central Digital. They put it on their YouTube
Oh,
and kind of
wow.
gave me back the money I had spent on it. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. So they threw it up there, and I'm like unbelievably grateful that I shot it when I did, because otherwise that material would just kind of be gone. It was pretty great. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with it, and it seems to be doing really well. We're close to 1 million views in like just over a month, so I'm hoping to hit 1 million in the next few days. We'll
That's
see.
amazing. Did you have any idea it would get up to almost 1 million views?
I had some idea because Sam Morrill did the same thing. He released his on Comedy Central YouTube, and it got up there. And they have like 1 million subscribers or whatever. And I knew, like, you know, a lot of people would tweet it out, like Sal Volcano tweeted out, and Bill Burr and Norm Macdonald. And so that was huge and helpful. And then plus, like, all the comics at, like, whatever mid-level, for lack of a better term, Sam and Mark and Sarah and everybody that was doing it spread it around pretty good. And I went on, I did Marin's podcast, which was really helpful. So
Ooh.
I had a good idea that it would do well, but I wasn't. 1 million just feels insane to me.
That does feel insane. And as you're saying, I'm like, I didn't tweet it out. Yeah,
Oh, that's all right.
as soon as we hang up, that's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, I
We
appreciate
gotta
it.
get
Thanks.
you there.
No
Yeah.
sweat.
That's really
Um,
exciting. And so you were just doing like, yeah, your I guess your best stuff at the time, right? Right. Because now it's like if you're gonna do a special and not talk about the COVID stuff, people would be like, what? Why? I think it would be weird.
Yeah, it's strange. And now I'm just starting to like do shows again. And luckily I had some like excess material that I was doing at the time, but didn't make it on the special. So I have some material that I'm like, okay, this is something, but it's hard. It's hard to like create material right now because we're not doing sets every night, obviously.
It really is. Like and like no one ever told us like it's going to be 6 months, that you always thought, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks. And then you hear people go, oh, it's going to be like this for months. And you're like, no, that's crazy, and we're just going week to week. It's like, but then you look back, you're like, man, I could have gotten a fucking pilot's license in all this time. Like, it's like, I find myself getting so hard on myself. Like I look around my apartment and I'm like, I didn't Marie Kondo my closet. I didn't hang up the pictures that have been laying around. Like I didn't repot the cactus, I find myself being like, well, why did I had all this time. Why don't I have a six pack by now? Like, why am I not doing like killing it at these home workouts? And, it's like, well, I'm home. I'm not doing shows. Like it's so, but and then I still do like Zoom sessions with my therapist. And she's like, no, don't be hard on yourself. Like this shit like has psychological effects on people. It's like disruption of rhythm. It's like all this stuff can kind of make you depressed.
Yeah. We're doing our best though. It's very traumatic. It's fun. It is traumatic. I was listening to some podcast that recorded it was like Sam Harris's podcast or an interview he did or whatever it doesn't even matter. But he was like he recorded it on March 17th and listening to him be like, there's some crazy shit about to happen. It's in Italy. It's coming here. It's inevitable. We have to shut down. And just it made me like feel that feeling I haven't felt since March when you were like, what is this? And now it feels like we're like survivors. It feels like this really great like PTSD situation. It's really
it is so weird because I was in LA, like I felt the same way you feel about like your special. I felt about like this LA trip. Like I went out there like March 1st or something. I was there for like a week. It might have been like the 5th to the 12th or something like that. And like I was so lucky to have like the whole week shows, meeting people, getting up at all the places I wanted to get up at. And then it was like the very last day, like the day I was supposed to fly, I was getting a late nighttime flight. I believe they call it a red eye. And then I had like 2 podcasts to record that day, and they both canceled because like the COVID stuff, and they were like, weird about, and I was like, what? I was like in so much disbelief. And I'm like at the hotel, like looking at the news, and I'm like, all right, well now I have so much time to kill before I get on this nighttime flight. And like, I'm just sitting there, like drinking at the bar. I'm getting increasingly worried. I'm like, well, for some reason I like went to a local grocery store in West Hollywood, and it was a fucking panic. Like it was in the air. It was like there was such a,
wow.
Everybody's like driving, did people have masks at this point?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They're just everyone piling the highest amount of groceries they could fit in their carts. And I'll never forget like that feeling of panic in that store. And I didn't feel it at all, like not during the day, not even before it. But as soon as I got to the store, I was like, huh? And I found myself, I don't know why, but I was like buying, all the wipes were gone. And there was like this panic to get like antibacterial stuff. I found myself buying like just like loose alcohol on its own. I just bought a huge thing of just like liquid. Well, obviously alcohol is liquid, but like huge thing of alcohol. And I bought a bunch of like little Listerine bottles. And I thought I was so smart. I'm dumping out the Listerine, putting in just regular clear alcohol. And I took all these little bottles of alcohol like onto the plane because I just thought that I'd have to be constantly like wiping down and like throwing it on myself. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I was like, oh yeah, I got this. I'll mix it with you guys have essential oil? No, I thought I was trying to make my own like sanitizer or something. And it was so weird. And I still have the little weird bottles of alcohol like in my closet. I don't know what the fuck I thought I was going to do. But looking back, I was so lucky that I basically, the whole trip was fine except for that last day. And I remember like I was coming, even like I went to Mexico, like went to Cancun with my boyfriend like at the end of January, very beginning of February. And as we're coming back from Mexico, like landing in, I think, New York, like it was like went we through Mexican customs or like before we landed, right? So we're just about to get on the plane. The Mexican people are checking our passport, and COVID was like just becoming a thing. They were like, "Have you been to China recently?" I'm like, "You're looking at our passports right now."
Right.
Like they just knew that they had to ask about it, but they weren't sure why. And we're like, "No, China." Like, okay, go. Ooh. You know, they kind of just. It was beginning to be scary too, because like not even the people who worked at the airports like really knew. They were just like, we have to ask about this.
Yeah, it was weird. And same thing, like when it was coming down, people started to be like, well, because Louie, going back to Louie, like he shot his special after I shot mine, like I think March 8th or 9th. And he was
Whoa.
supposed to shoot it April 4th. And I remember he called me and was like, I'm going to shoot it tonight instead. And I remember being like, what? And thinking it was insane. Like it was
Whoa.
the week before everything shut down. He was like, there's no way that show's happening in April. And I just thought it was the
So
craziest thing I'd
he
ever heard.
knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was reading whatever he was reading, and I was like, oh, okay, move it up, you psycho. I'm like, that show's happening, I can tell you that. And of course, like it didn't even come close to happen. It canceled like a month out.
Did he also shoot his special at the same place you did?
No, he shot his in DC at some theater in DC on the last week or the weekend before we shut down.
Whoa. And then where did he release that yet?
Yeah,
Or
it's
is
on his
that just
website.
regular website? Oh, right.
Yeah,
That was the one that was on his website. And I
yeah.
remember I watched it and I thought it was really good. Right. Whereas like Mark, he put out his special, and that is just straight his regular YouTube.
Yeah, he put his on his YouTube. He shot his, I think maybe in December or something like that in LA. He sat on it for a while.
Wow. He's
But yeah,
definitely past 1 million views at this point. I think he might be
oh, he's at
maybe
like
at two more.
three. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Whoa.
three-ish. Yeah. No, he's blowing up. It's crazy.
That's exciting.
It
That's
is. It's
exciting.
really nice for me because I pick up all his little scraps come come to the podcast and they go,
Yeah.
all right, we'll check this guy out too.
Podcast scraps. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You get all his Zoom shows that he can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I get so many people going, come do a show. Mark, we had Mark last week. And I'm like, no, I know Mark does shitty shows. I'm not just coming. Mark says yes to everything. I'm like, I'm not that guy. They're like, we have a show in a basement in Red Hook, and it's at 3 PM. Mark did it. I'm like, Mark did it is not that's not a way to get me in. I'm like, no. I want to see a photo of what this place looks, because he'll do anything. He doesn't give a shit.
He does do a lot. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, he's done a bunch of my shows over the years.
Yeah, he does anything. He doesn't give a fuck.
Why do you think that is? He just loves
I
the
think
stage time.
he's just hungry. Yeah, he just wants it. He loves it. He's a social guy. He likes running around and doing as many spots. I think he likes being that guy that's doing 4, 5, 6 spots. I'm old. I'm only a year and a half older than him, but I feel
But I'm old.
I like to do one set, go home. I started before him. Maybe I have more years in. I don't know, but I'd like to do a set and come home.
How many years in are you now?
I'm 20 in October. It's
20?
insane.
That's insane to me. You don't even look old enough to be doing anything for 20 years. Maybe
Oh,
dressing yourself.
thank you. Yeah, I started when I was 18, so I'm
Wow.
20 years in, which is crazy.
Wow. So like right out of high school.
Yeah, I'm a crafty veteran.
Wow. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm at like, God, I'm at 10.
It's
And
weird. It starts
yeah.
to go by. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also now I feel like, oh, now that I'm at 10, I realize I wasn't even really working until the last like 3 or 4 years. You know, it's like I now know how many years I was doing it, but like not fully doing it, not like working as hard as I could have, or like kind of half-assing it. But that's how it's got to go. I mean, you're not going to just jump into it doing 5 spots a night, you
Yeah.
know.
That's how I feel too. I mean, there was so many years that I thought I was doing it. I just was fucking around, but now I'm gone. Now I'm back
But
to taking it easy.
now you're back to doing it. Yeah. No, I like a couple spots together if it's convenient. Like I don't enjoy, well, especially now that I live in Westchester, like the thought now of going to Brooklyn, like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get excited about like a lot of travel,
Right.
especially if it's like not paid. I don't know. Because it's like it costs money to take the train and the subway, and then you have to have a sandwich at some point.
Right. So,
Joe, I love you. I'm a big fan. Where can people find you, follow you, support you, etc.?
thank you. Yeah. So I'm at L0uis Comedy on Twitter and Instagram, and Tuesdays with Stories is the podcast. And also, I Hate Myself on YouTube is up right now. You can go check it out, and you might be the millionth viewer. So go check it out, folks, and tell some
Ooh,
friends. And yeah, that's it.
sounds good. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Chrissy. I appreciate it. Thanks for
Bye.
having me.